Welcome back to the Indian Film Festival. Wasn't it just such a charming, wonderful, uplifting film? I'm so glad that all of you in the audience had a chance to see it. I'm here with Nachiket Samant, who is the director of the film Habaddi, and I am Rati Apana. I'm the executive director of the Indian Film Festival of Cincinnati. For those of you who don't know me, and Nachiket Samant actually took time out of his schedule to stay back. He was traveling and he was so kind enough to stay back and come to the interview. You know, it's really tough being a director with a lot of obligations, and, you know, being with family is also important. So I really appreciate that you took time out to come and be with us today, Nachikant. Really, it's absolutely wonderful. So, welcome, Nachikant. I just want to
Thank
say a
you.
little bit about him. Uh, Tell me how you pronounce your name. So
It's
I can
Nachiket.
Nachike.
Nachi. Yeah.
Nachike. So
Yes. Yeah.
Nachike is an Indian filmmaker, of course, and he recently made a fabulous feature film, his first feature in Marathi, and it was called Gachi. And Nachiket's interest, it's interesting to see how he kind of got into the film field as well, because I understand that his interest sort of blossomed as he worked on an organizing committee for the Pune Film Festival, International Film Festival. And here he was introduced to world cinema, and this gave him the opportunity then to work with different people, and he began to interact closely with international filmmakers. He ended up assisting Marco Armenta, an Italian filmmaker, and then, you know, the rest is history. From there, he began to write a Hindi feature film for MA Entertainment, and then he did Gachi, and now this his latest film is Habaddi, and I'm sure he has several others in the pipeline that he's going to talk to you about. Welcome, Nachiket.
Harati.
Hi. And we were hoping to have Mr. Amit Bala, who is a producer in the Hollywood space, join us today. And I know it is Amit's anniversary. And
Oh,
so, you know, it's his anniversary.
actually, this
He's trying to accommodate and do everything. So, and he's in Los Angeles, of course. So he might just join us as we go along. So I'll kind of start us off, and then we'll take it from there. Um, and then I'll introduce Amit to you guys when he comes on. So our goal, you know, at each interview is to sort of have a conversation with the director, a conversation that begins to sort of peel back the layers and then reveal the story behind the story. And so I'm going to try and do that today with you. So I want to start off by asking you, how did you come across this film, this topic, this film? How did you, I mean, the story? How did you come across the story or the idea behind the story?
okay. This happened a long time ago. We have been making this film for a pretty long time, actually. So some of the things might not be as clear in my head right now as
Yeah.
they were while making the film.
Yeah.
But I'm not a trained filmmaker, so I don't start with a log line, then do the story, and then do the screenplay, right?
Ah,
So I just had some elements in my head that I wanted to play around with. Like Kabaddi is a
yeah.
sport that I had played in school. It's a very
Oh, wow.
popular sport in India,
Yeah.
especially in the part of India that I live in, Maharashtra. Um, and it's an audio visual sport. I think the uniqueness of the sport is that it includes the element of sound as well, where the players have to continue saying the word kabaddi over and over again.
Mm.
So with that audio visual element, I felt it lent itself very beautifully, to cinema.
Ah,
And obviously, we pushed it to a level where we made it musical. But that was the idea. But I did not just want to make a sports film
mm,
because I watched a lot of sports films, and eventually they all kind of were a similar structure to me.
yes.
So
Yes.
wanted to add something else to it, and also had this character in mind
Yeah.
of this very smart Oliver Twist kind of kid
Mm.
in a village, who's loosely inspired from my brother who's adopted by my parents when I was already 10 years old, and we got this kid who was like 13 years old, older than me. Uh, and He's loosely inspired from that. A very bright kid, but he was underconfident because of his really, really thin voice. And that's why he don't really speak that much. And then me and my co-writer Yogesh, we just started putting things together and just flowing with ideas, and then whatever screenplay happened. I think we just did like two drafts. Um, I had written this story a long time ago, but I was struggling to make it. I wasn't able to find a producer right away.
Mm.
And then Gachi was made with Yogesh's script. I had nothing to do with the writing of it. It was a very
Uh,
small film with Gachi means terrace in Marathi, like a
yeah,
rooftop,
yeah,
and it's like just two characters on a rooftop.
yeah,
So for a first time filmmaker, that was like an easier pitch to make, and that happened. But once that film was made and I won like an award for it, the second film was pretty easy. I mean,
yeah,
I pitched it to this corporate studio, and they really liked it.
yeah.
And
Sarigama. Yeah,
Sarigama, yeah.
yeah.
And I have a long-standing relationship with them. We keep bouncing ideas of each other. I already made my second film with them again,
Hmm.
which is a Hindi film.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's more or less the story of Habaddi. But yeah,
That's how it came about. And what did your brother have to say? I had to ask. What did your
no,
brother? What was your
I
brother's
don't
reaction?
think he hasn't seen it yet.
He hasn't seen it yet. He
It's
hasn't.
not released as yet, and I'd like to take him to the theater and make him watch it there. And
I'm
that'd be
sorry, I
interesting.
didn't hear
Also,
you. Could you say that again?
when it releases in the theaters here, I would like to take him to the theaters and make him watch it.
Oh,
But although, like I said, it's very loosely based on him. It's not him. It
yeah,
was just loosely based on him. I just wanted that's how the idea of the kid popped up in my head.
yeah,
In the original idea, the kid used to be
yeah,
much older,
yeah,
but then we thought that we just
yeah,
thought that a kid who's like uh, daydreaming about this girl that he's in love with would be a better idea than a slightly older guy, which
yeah,
would probably seem a little bit creepier. So just made
yeah.
the kid younger.
Oh my gosh, I thought that was such a clever a storyline as well. And where did you find this young man, young boy to play this role? Did you have to
This
audition? Oh,
Karan Dave has already acted in many films and commercials, TV commercials.
I see.
So the editor on my first film, Gachi, had edited a film of his before called Nimmo, a
Uh-huh.
Hindi film. And this guy is in Marathi. He's a Gujarati kid.
Hmm.
He can't really speak Marathi. So, I mean, he can speak Marathi, but with a heavy Gujarati accent.
I see.
So, but thankfully, we knew that the kid did not have that many dialogues. So, we had him redubbed later because
I
he's such
see.
a fantastic actor that we thought we'd go ahead with him. Also,
Yeah,
the editor was very impressed by his work. The editor from earlier film, actually,
yeah.
he had watched this film and he was like, "He's the best actor I've ever seen." I was like,
Mm.
"Okay, we need to check this guy's
Yes,
work
yes.
out." And then he suddenly shows up for audition, and we were really impressed. But we had to train him. We had to train him to swim. After training him to swim for a few months, we realized that we needed to train him for scuba diving and not for swimming actually, because for staying underwater for long spells, you need scuba lessons. So then we trained him for scuba, and in that period, his height kind of shot up by 6 inches. So
Oh,
we
wow.
had to work that because kids around that age, don't know when their growth spurt hit them, right? So
Exactly. Oh, wow. That must have been quite challenging. So what? So when you actually shot this film, which of the shots did you do earlier and which ones did you do later? And did it really? I mean, I didn't notice the height difference, if at all there was. I didn't notice that. So
thankfully,
you,
he wasn't really. The last bits that we shot were the underwater bits.
I
So we
see.
shot in a swimming pool after training him for
Uh,
scuba lessons. Then we created the whole world in the underwater in CG. So that took like a year of our time. We are also dealing with like limited funds. It's a small indie film, so we're dealing with
right.
limited funds.
that was a fascinating scene as well, and fascinating that he was willing to learn scuba diving. Not everyone can do it. People are sometimes so afraid of water. And how important was that scene to your entire film, in your opinion?
I mean, it was. I think it's the USP of the film because we don't really explore that world that much,
Hmm.
especially in Marathi cinema. We don't. Also, it
Yeah,
was symbolic of your innermost fears. It's like
correct.
a symbol of deep diving within yourself and facing your innermost fears. And the well is infested by a ghost, as the village thinks. But to
Yes.
me, what it was largely just facing your inner demons. So it was very important, and I did not want to just state it plainly, saying the kid is scared and he needs to get over his fear. So I wanted a visual representation of it in a certain kind of way in this fantasy world. So the scene was very important, and to pull that scene off the way we did was also very important. That's why we spent so much time doing CG work on it.
I see. I see. Yeah. So I was just looking down on my phone because our guest interviewer is saying, "I'm sorry, I just got the power back." So just like you guys out there in India, we have these issues also, of network. So I told him to please come in. And then meanwhile, there's a question from the audience, and the audience question is. Um, was the story of Ketki woven in because he was on the threshold of teens?
Not really. No, she was also an element who was already in my head from the beginning
Mm,
because again, like I told you, the initial character was usually based on my brother, and he had this girl that he used to like, but never had the guts to go up and speak to. So there was always this girl who is out of reach and never really a reality for the kid. And
correct.
even the viewer she was never really accessible to him in any kind of way. It was just his fantasy that he was chasing, and
Yeah.
I just wanted to chase alongside him
Ah,
and see.
lovely, lovely. So let me just take a pause here, Nachiket, if you don't mind, and ask our tech person, Jay, to please Jay, could you please let in Mr. Amit Bala?
Ahmet is not in the lobby. As soon as Ahmet joins the lobby, I will let him into the meeting.
As long as you know, yeah, that's fine. As long as you know, that's fine. Um, so I'm sorry, I got a little distracted here. And where did you do this entire shoot? Where did it actually take place?
It took place in Maharashtra.
Hmm.
Uh, there's this um, there's this mountain range,
Uh,
um, and there's this huge dam called Bhandardara
hmm.
towards the western side of Maharashtra, and we shot at the foothills of those mountain ranges. We found this quaint little village, and there are a lot of these villages. I just wanted something that looked magic real and had never been explored before, so we spent a long time looking for the place. And as soon as we found this little village, we were like, yeah, this is our place. And I had this idea of where Manya would live in my mind, which
Hmm.
was like a huge plain land with just one house on it.
Ah,
And that's what we found there.
that's what you tried to
And
find.
then
Yeah,
we
that's
did like, we did paint the entire village blue to get it into like our scheme of things and make it seem more unreal or surreal in some kind of way. So those are things we did. But we found the village there in Bhandardara.
yeah, yeah. And the children that are they all from that same village that you used?
No, not really. Uh, So some of the children from the school are from that village. All of the main characters, the main bullies and
Mhm.
Ketki and the Manya are actors from Mumbai.
Real actors and yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's fascinating. I think you put it together so well, and I especially like the cinematography, and the colors that you used, and the music, with the young boy running. I thought that was very, very, very significant. Yeah. So, what were the
thanks.
challenges that you think Mana might have faced in this whole Manav? I'm sorry, in this movie. Were there any at all, or did he have to leave school? Was he somewhere else, or
You
was
mean
he?
the actor,
Yeah,
Karan?
actor. Since he's already acted, I just wondered. I'm just give me one
I mean,
second.
yeah.
Just give me one second. I think Mr. Bala is here. No, not here yet. Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
yes,
Oh, he is.
yeah.
Okay.
So, sincerest apologies. I am down in Florida, and the power all went out. So
Oh,
it was terrible timing.
no, that's
Hi,
all right.
Amit.
We would just
Well, pleasure to meet you.
Thank
welcome
you. Same here.
on our show. I was just having a conversation with Nachiket, a very young director of this beautiful film, a very poignant film. Really, it touched my heart. And I just want to introduce Amit to the audience. Amit Bala is a writer and director. He's based out of LA. And he has created and executive produced comedy pilots for numerous networks and studios, including FX, Paramount, Sony, Legendary, and Fox, while also partnering with production companies, including Get Lifted and Red Hour. Outside of creating, he's written on shows ranging from NBC's Outsourced to a new animated show on Nickelodeon. He's a graduate of the Peter Stark Producing Program, and Amit is currently writing and executive producing two comedy pilots, both of which feature South Asians in leading roles. Welcome, Amit. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having
And
me. Again, apologies for that delay.
oh, no worries at all. I mean, the idea here, when we discuss the film with the audience and with the directors, to see if there are, to see how we can peel back the layers and kind of understand, were there any interesting stories behind the camera. And so I just started the conversation with Nachiket, and I was trying to figure out where the location was, and he just talked to us about the location, and he talked to us about how he found the actor. And I'm going to let you ask him a few questions, and I'll stay on, and yeah, we'll just I'll let you do the rest. So, Nachiket, you're in good hands because Amit has, a lot of questions from his perspective, and so I'm going to let you guys.
So my first question is, how do you get the internet to work when the power goes out in the neighborhood? That's
Yeah,
the
no.
first question.
I have to tell you, Nachiket warned me ahead of time. He said, if the internet works, I'll be there. If the, and things like that, and he was so nice to come back and be with us. Thank
Because
you.
I was supposed to be traveling. At home, that problem is sorted, but I was supposed to be traveling and I had no control over what the network situation would be over there. But otherwise, we just go back to our phones and our network providers and use that internet. Otherwise, if we don't have Wi-Fi support, that is.
Yeah, no, totally. So, anyways, I apologize. We're up and running, but Habaddi was a beautiful film, and I commend you on sort of the overarching story and the narrative that you created. As I joined, you guys were talking about the beautiful colors and the cinematography, which was top notch, and the performances of the actors. To work with child actors is obviously extremely difficult. And not only do you, from a logistics point of view, but from a performance point of view. So I want to start there if I can, if you want to, and I don't know if you've already addressed this, but let's talk a little bit about our lead actor and sort of how you were able to get the performance you got from him, because it is a really top-notch performance.
So Karan, the kid who plays Manya, Karan Dave, he's like a professional actor. He's already acted in like a couple of films, lots of TV commercials. So he kind of knew what he was doing, and so did the rest of the kids. But for whatever reason, I did not feel super comfortable in the beginning. I had no experience, directing child actors. So probably I did not trust him as much as I should have initially, and I was like over directing him in many ways, telling him exactly what to do and just showing him how to express a certain emotion. And sometime during the shooting of the film, I realized that this kid can give me something more than what I am asking him to give me. Because in the scene where he cries, he breaks down crying after his uncle passes away.
Mm.
He's supposed to break down and cry, and I was like, I had no idea what to tell him. And I asked him if he would be able to do it, and he was very confident in saying that, yeah, I can do it. And so I did not direct him, just said action, and what he was supposed to, and it looked so genuine. I was so worried for him after cut. I like rushed up to him and asked him if it was okay, and he just gave me this big smile, as if nothing had happened. So it was really confusing to me that you know wondering where he could source these emotions from, even to be honest. And since then, I stopped over directing him. I just let him do his own thing, and that was better, I think, than telling him exactly what to do. Look straight for 10 seconds, and then give me a smile, and then walk away, and things like that. I stopped doing that.
Now, was that early on in the film that you shot that scene, or was that later towards? I mean, you shoot in India. Do you shoot sequentially, or do you shoot more location driven?
It is location driven, but within that, we try to be as sequential as possible.
Okay. Okay. So was that earlier on or later on that you sort of got to the
It
point
was
of, hey, I'm going to
sort
let
of
him open up a little bit?
It was in the early parts, but we had already like shot for like 7, 8 days by then.
Got it. And how many days was the whole shoot, out of curiosity?
The whole shoot was about 27 days. 27 days.
That's incredible.
Not in one go. We had to take breaks. Like we shot for like 20 days in the village. Then we shot for like 3, 4 days in Mumbai and 3, 4 days in the water. The underwater sequences were like, so we had to break it up.
I want to ask you a question here about the narrative overall, because on the surface, it's a story about a boy trying to get to Mumbai to visit this girl. It's much more layered than that. It's what I took away was it's really a story, among other things, about imperfection and about coming to terms with this idea that it's okay to be not perfect. And you sort of took all of your characters and realized that arc through the end. And I want to talk a little bit about where that came from, where that idea came from. And feel free, I'm always interested when I talk to fellow filmmakers where their ideas come from in general. So, if you want to talk a little bit about that, that'd be great.
So yeah, I mean, I already mentioned to Rati that I'm not a trained filmmaker, nor is my fellow co-writer Yogesh. So we don't start from a log line. You see, we don't start from a log line, then do like one line scene breakdowns, then the story. So I just had like a few ideas in my head. I had this character of this boy who is underconfident and but also filled with the freedom that kids have, the freedom of thought, where you can chase your dreams and don't think about the obstacles as big as they are. You just want to cross them and you fantasize about crossing them in your own way. So I had this character and I had the sport of Kabaddi, which I really enjoy. Personally, I've played it in school and college, and
Sure.
it has an audio visual element to it. So I just wanted to put these two things together and see where it goes. And that's essentially what we did. I mean, we also had the character of the girl who was always out of reach and was never going to be accessible to Manya. So it was always going to be a dream. And that's why we've also tried to treat it in like a dream-like manner, the sequences with the boy and the girl together, because they're playing in his head as a memory, as like a film flashback, and not in reality. So, so I don't really know where the narrative comes from per se, but we just kind of followed the kid and his fantasies, and we just like we would think what would be an interesting scene after this, just that would keep us hooked and would take the story forward. And that is how we kept moving there. We kind of knew where he would end up at the end towards Mumbai, so we're kind of building up towards that.
Sure.
But there was no conscious thought of doing so and so and so, and therefore thus reaching the end.
Got it. It was
So
much more, and it felt that way. I mean, it felt, and I want to ask a question about the pacing of the film too, but it felt very organic. It felt as though we were following our lead character and we were following his journey from the beginning. And you really, you rooted for him. The sign of any good film, really, or any good story, right, is that you're rooting for your lead character.
hmm,
And we were with him from the beginning. Not only did you externalize it in a great way by showing sort of his other classmates and the bullying, but you also you showed sort of his reluctance. He's in the class and raising his hand, but he's not going to talk. And so we see it both the internal and the external. And oftentimes when filmmakers have stories that are so character driven, the pacing can get lost. It can end up being a 3-hour film, and you sort of go, you zig, you zag, you zig, you zag, which is great. I prefer the stronger paced or quicker paced movies. And so I want to ask you a bit about that, how you balance the character moments, the post the uncle passing away, sort of getting there at the end, in that moment with her, and sort of balance that with the pacing of the film.
So I, like I said, I'm not a trained filmmaker. I've grown up on a heavy dose of commercial cinema, right? And I always want the film to be accessible to as many people as possible. And in India, that means that you need to be playing in theaters and playing for audiences who watch commercial films. So you need to keep their interest going. So I did not want to internalize all that much where the viewer loses interest. For film buffs and filmmakers like us, it is interesting to go on that journey and go deeper down in the psyche of the characters. But I don't think the layman really has that much patience. He wants the story to keep on moving.
Sure.
So that was also at the back of my mind, where I wanted to have constant movement in the story, where he's moving towards a certain kind of goal. In fact, I thought there was too much movement, which is why we needed to kill off the uncle's character and kind of slow it down a little bit, because we felt that the kid is almost in a free world where he's getting everything what he wants very easily, almost. So let's see, what if we throw this at him? How is he going to react? Is he going to like slow down? Is what the idea was at that point.
That makes sense. No, I appreciate that, because I think you had the correct sort of instinct on that, where he was going up, 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 and we want to feel as though, there is a major setback, and he is going to have to learn a little bit and go through there. I want to talk another question on sort of the style of the film, because yes, the cinematography is great. It's also very stylistic. A lot of your choices were interesting choices that you don't often see in a narrative of this nature. And I want, if you can talk a little bit about that, of when that came into the process, from anything as small as, when our lead character is looking down at the pieces that he's building together, and the way you stylistically move those together, it almost felt like as if, you were coming at us from an animated point of view, and then obviously the surreal and the dream moments where you're going underwater. And so where did that sort of come into the whole process?
So yeah, okay. I'm a huge fan of Charlie Chaplin's work. So that is apparent through the filmmaking. I don't know. Also, Wes Anderson influences maybe somewhere. And I absolutely did not want to make a super realistic film. Uh, Firstly, I'm an urban kid, and I wasn't really confident that I would be able to capture the realism if I went into a village and tried to showcase that. And so I wanted to bring in my kind of style into this, what I enjoy watching, and treating it this way made it my own, rather than trying to tell a story like some other filmmakers who have made a real mark because they've seen the life up close. So I knew I won't be able to reach that firstly. Um, Stylistically, so with the clockwork pieces, with things coming together in stop motion, the idea was to kind of express that this talent that he has, with this engineering brain that the kid has, is even beyond himself. It's not an analytical thought. It's not something that he has learned. So it's just happening to him. He's not really like doing it himself, but it's happening to him. And it also brings in a layer of magic realism to it, where the pieces are getting and fitting into each other by themselves. Also, it was a stylistic choice. Um, the underwater sequences are again symbolic of facing your innermost fears. So that is again a call that we took, where Otherwise, I mean, if you were to look at it realistically, there would be no light source inside the well, and you probably won't be able to see anything. But because it was a magic real world, we could take that liberty. And so basically, what it was everybody in the village was scared of the well, and nobody could really go inside the well. But this kid, because he had the freedom of being a child, was diving into the well and facing his fears more than anything else. Also, the ramping of the shots that we have done, although it might seem like a stylistic choice coming from my Chaplin influences, but was an edit call that we took because at times we felt that it was dragging a little bit. Maybe the shot did not have as much energy, maybe the performance did not have as much energy, and then we decided to try it out, and then I just thought that it stuck. I mean, it worked well for what I wanted to say, so we just, I don't know if it does, was an instinctive call on the edit table where we start ramping shots.
It's amazing the magic you find when you get into the editing room too.
Yeah, I love the process. I love writing and editing more than anything, but I don't know. On the last film I did, because the writing bit, I was given very little time for writing. Not Habaddi, the one I did after that, was a very short process. I enjoyed filmmaking a lot more because I went there absolutely with very little prep at hand. So then we were really experimenting on sets, which was fun also.
What on that notion, I mean, with this movie, how is this movie distributed? Will it be distributed in India? I mean, where can, if there are people streaming this now and watching and they want to see it in the theater? I mean, obviously it's an interesting time in the world, but just in general, I mean.
So that's the thing. I mean, we were waiting for about a year. We were almost about to finish the movie last November, I think, and early to 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and we couldn't really finish the film. And then we were struggling to kind of like do little bits here and there. And now the theaters will finally start opening up in India, and but I don't know how many people will be keen to go to the theaters right away, and there'll be a lot of films kind of vying for the screens right now. So we'll have to figure that out. But the producers and I are in talks about how to go about it, and do we approach OTT platforms or do we just wait a while and see? But so having screenings at festivals like this is very, very helpful. Where you generally start building momentum towards your release. So it's been great. I mean, being screened in Cincinnati.
Let me ask you a question too. I mean, I'm always interested. What's your biggest takeaway that you want people to take away when they watch this film? Obviously, it's the sign of a good film to me. Resonates on many levels, and there was a lot of things when I watched it after I was done that sort of sat with me, and I found myself thinking about and wanting to ask you about. And I'm curious what it was that you wanted to get across, because it's not every day you see a lead character who has a speech impediment, which I thought was interesting right off the bat. And obviously the universality of it all is everybody has flaws, everyone has imperfections, and dealing with that is the journey and the struggle in and of itself. But I'm curious what you wanted to say, to people by making this movie.
That's an interesting question. I guess the lead character is a little bit of an escapist, which probably comes from me because I am a little bit of an escapist myself. But what I would like for people to take away from it is just having the freedom of chasing behind your wildest fantasies, even though they seem like the most unreal at times. And as we grow up, we kind of become more calculative and very analytical, and your thoughts need to have logic, and all your decisions need to have complete logic. But as kids, just having, I have two daughters of my own, just having that kind of wild side to you where you can dream of anything and just have the belief that it can somehow happen is amazing. And I think we've approached the film also like that, without really you know really knowing how to go about things, but just finding solutions like that. That's what the kid does. So yeah, that would be what I would hope that the people take away from it to watch it.
Yeah, and I think that really came across. I mean, I have a child as well, a 3-year-old, and seeing the world through their eyes is pretty fascinating when you get to see that anything is possible and everything is a dream, and you
Yeah.
really, our lead really encapsulated that. And even in the contrast of, I've been to India many times and, had the chance, especially in Mumbai, to go through Dharavi of that and, see the villages and the slums of that nature. And, you took a character that said, hey, he really has no business, belonging in the big city. And to show that journey ended there and ended, and his success was really, it was nice. It was nice to see. So I really think you got your point across there. I want to ask you too, in terms of, so I was reading it, and this is a little bit of tangent, but you did another movie while you were during this whole quarantine situation. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we were waiting for this movie to kind of release, and I had no idea what to do. I was sitting at home for 4 months, writing other stuff, figuring out what I can do at this time. And the producers of this film, Udli Films, because I had worked with them before. They love Habaddi. They offered me another film, which is a completely different kind of work for me. It was like more director for hire work. The script was already written. I was expected to come on board and deliver the film in 4 months' time, like start to end. So it was going to be a completely different process for me, and I took it up as a challenge because I'd spent 2 years making this film, and I always felt that maybe that was a bit too long, and if this challenge is thrown at me, if I'd be able to do it. But we managed to do it. It's released already on an OTT platform in India on the 21st of this month, and I'm just coming off the back of it. So it's pretty overwhelming right now that we're talking about Habaddi, just another film releasing. So I'm doing interviews for that as well. Uh,
That's awesome.
yeah,
That is a great use of time during the quarantine time.
yeah. So that was shot completely during the pandemic with like all the safety measures in place, with people wearing those PPE kits and masks and shields and stuff. It felt like a sci-fi set, and it took some getting used to, because on film sets it's a very intimate atmosphere usually, but this was like pretty cold, and we found our intimacy through that somehow, because everybody was carrying that fear somewhere in their heads, and everybody who agreed to do the film was very eager to do the film and start working. So
Sure.
within that emotion somehow we found like a level common ground, and I had a lot of fun shooting the
That's
film.
awesome. And do you want to share that? I don't know. I don't even know if I was supposed to talk about that, but do you want to share that title with everybody just so, I think once people find filmmakers they like and work that they like, they want to follow it. So I know I'm eager to see that movie when it's, completed.
It's a rom-com film called Comedy Couple, about two stand-up comics who perform stand-up together and live together. And it's on Z5. That's an OTT platform in India. I'm not sure it is available in America, but that's what it is. Stars Saqib Salim and Shweta Basu Prasad.
Got it.
So
That's
yeah,
very cool and it's very
it wasn't
commendable.
an indie film like this one was. It was new process.
I want to ask, just read a question from the audience here, that I'm trying to decipher. So I could be wrong, but it looks like, the question is, um, the contrast of taking our lead character and putting him in a big city at the end to achieve his dream, and then finding the disappointment with the girl. Um, I guess the question is, was that how early on was that sort of a conscious choice to make that disappointment a reality, or when in the filmmaking process? I know we already mentioned that sort of endings, you came to the ending kind of at the, before you write. And I think any good filmmaker, you come to the ending first
Yeah.
usually, but I'm just curious there.
So, I mean, the point entirely was that chasing perfection is kind of not a viable option. So
Sure.
he had built this image of the girl that she's the only perfect one because she doesn't stammer, and she doesn't stammer because she doesn't lie. and we wanted the kid to find out that nobody's perfect, and even she lied to her mother that there's a cat on the balcony, and she stammers while she does that, and that breaks his myth about perfection. And whatever emotions he was carrying in his mind for her are gone in an instant, and that also happens with kids, and that can happen with adults as well. Actually,
Yeah, of
we
course.
build up images in our head, and then he was finally ready to face his reality once the outer myths were broken, which is what the intention was. And we had to place him in the city. I mean, we had to bring him. That is the dream he had been chasing all along. We had to take him right up to the finishing line. In fact, the final shot of the film, in my head, I did not want his hand to cross the finishing line. I wanted a new struggle to begin from there. But and just on the edit table, that shot, that ending seems right for whatever reason.
Sure. No, and that came across and it made perfect sense. I mean, this idea that, in his head, everybody is perfect but him, and then realizing, no, we're all sort of the same deep down, and finding contentment in that, and that enables him to go and compete in the Kabaddi tournament and cross the finish line in that manner. And I think, that really came across well. And I thought it was really well executed. So I think, your point came across what you were trying to do. So I commend you for that. And, I want to ask you one more question here, and then I think we'll be wrapping up. But, will we see a future with these characters? Will there be a Habaddi sequel? And if not, where do you see these characters in, 5 years, 10 years from now?
Well, that's an interesting question. I haven't really thought about it, but it'll be interesting right now. If you're throwing the question at me, I don't know what Manya would be doing and what Katie would be doing and what the coach would be doing. The uncle's obviously dead.
Sure.
But yeah, it's interesting. I don't have an answer for you right now, and I'm really bad with these spontaneous kind of questions. But yeah,
it was me just riffing, because when you said that that you left the shot in the edit room, towards when he was there after he saw the girl, and so I was just thinking, oh man, what if I think everybody loved these characters, and one of the things that's great with sort of children is as they grow, it's new.
There'll be any scope for Kabaddi in it. If the kid's grown up, I mean, I think we are long past this fantasy magic real world. We are in real times then. I think he'd be dealing with Corona like everybody else. I don't know what it is.
Yes, that is true. And internet power outages and coronavirus and too much. But listen, I want to thank you again. I apologize for being delayed, but I want to thank you again for sharing the beautiful film with the festival, with the audience, taking your time for this interview, and really sort of, presenting what you got across in the film. I mean, there's not a lot of explanation that needs to be done, and I think that's the case with any great film. And I for one am a big fan, and I can't wait to see your next project, and I'll figure out a way to see it. I'll stream it here somehow, or I'll have my cousins over there figure out a way to sling it to me. But I'm a big fan. I'm sure the audience here is a big fan, and I look forward to talking more and really seeing your career grow.
Thank you so much. It was like amazing talking to you guys. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Amit, and thank you, Nachiket. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks a lot, Rati. Thank you, Amit, for taking time out for us.
Yes, of course. Thank you guys for having me.
Happy anniversary to you, Amit.
Happy anniversary to you.
Thank you. It's at midnight, so it's it's the 25th. So it's exciting. It's an exciting day.
Thank you so much.